Hello, welcome to Prajim Technologies. I'm Venkat. This is part 36, Delegates. In this session, we will learn the basics of delegates. In the previous sessions, we have learned about structures, classes, and interfaces. We know that structures are value types, whereas classes and interfaces are reference types. Similarly, delegates are also reference types. Now, delegates is one of the complicated subjects in any of the programming languages. But trust me, if you get the basics right, delegates are extremely easy and you will love to work with them. In fact, when I was learning delegates, I was like, what the hell? Why do we use this? These are so complicated. But then once I realized the flexibility they provide us with, I love to work with them right now. Okay, so let's get our hands around the basics in this session, and in a later session we'll actually see how to apply this um, uh, you know delegates to solve some real-time business problems. Okay, let's look at an example. Now, what's a delegate? A delegate is a function pointer. Actually, a delegate is a type safe function pointer. So this is the actual definition of a delegate. A delegate is a type safe function pointer, meaning a delegate points to a function, and then when you invoke this delegate, the function will be invoked. Now you'll be wondering, why do you have to create a delegate, make it point to a function, and then invoke that delegate? Why don't you call the function directly? Now the reason why we have to do it in that way is because of the flexibility that we will get with that approach. Okay, that's what we'll examine in a later session, but in this session we'll only concentrate on the basics of delegates. So once we are very comfortable with the syntax of creating a delegate and then making it point to a function and then invoking the delegate, and we get all the basics strong about these delegates, then we will see how to apply this delegate to a real-time project and solve some real business problems. All right, now since a delegate is a type safe function pointer, meaning it points to a function, so we need a function. So let's go ahead and create a simple function. Now I have a simple function, public void, let's say hello, and this function takes in a message of string type, let's say str message, and all this function does is output that message to the console. So console.writeLine str message, so it prints that message to the console. Let's make it static. So this is a static method. And if you haven't watched my video series on methods, and if you're new to methods, I would strongly encourage you to watch the video tutorial on methods in this series. Okay, now if you look at this method, it has got the void return type and it takes a string parameter. Okay, now we know that a delegate is a function pointer. So to actually understand a delegate, think of it, the syntax of a delegate is actually similar to a function. Okay, now to create a structure, we use the struct keyword. To create a class, we use the class keyword. Similarly, if you want to create a delegate, you use the delegate keyword. Okay, so public delegate. Now to remember the syntax of the delegate, think of it as if it's a method with a delegate keyword. Okay, a method will have a return type, name of the method, and then any parameters. Okay, similarly, a delegate will also have a return type. Let's say void is the return type, and then the name of the delegate. Now this delegate is going to point to this function, so let's give it a meaningful name. You can give it any name, but let me give it as hello function delegate. Okay, and then just like a method, a delegate also takes in a parameter. So I'm going to pass it a string parameter. That's it. So if you look at this delegate, apart from this delegate keyword, it's actually like a method signature. It has got the access modifier, a return type, name of the delegate or function, whatever, and then the parameter. But if you put the delegate keyword there, it becomes a delegate, meaning this delegate now can be used to point to a function which has a similar syntax, similar signature. Now this delegate can point to any function that has got void return type and takes in a string parameter. Okay, now how do we make this delegate point to a function? that you have to create an instance of this delegate, and this is where a delegate is similar to a class. Okay, now if I have a customer class, I can say customer c1 is equal to new customer. C1 is the instance of that class. Similarly, I can create an instance of this delegate. So to create an instance of this delegate, all you do is hello function delegate. Okay, let's say delegate is equal to new hello function delegate, and to the constructor of this delegate you pass in the name of the function to which you want this delegate to point to. Okay, in our example I want this function to point to this hello method, so I'm going to pass in that function name. And if you look at the IntelliSense here, okay, the parameter that you are going to pass in should be a method name because that's a delegate. Okay, and that method should have a void return type and it should take a string parameter. So is our method confirming to that signature? Yes, it has got void return type and it's taking in a string parameter. So now I can pass this hello. Now to invoke that method, all you do is invoke this delegate. And if you look at this delegate, it is expecting a string parameter to be passed in. So when I try to call that delegate, I have to pass in the string parameter. So let's say hello from delegate. So now what's going to happen? This delegate call will actually internally behind the scenes, it will automatically invoke this method, and to this method it will pass this parameter. And whatever this method has to do, it will do its job. In this case, it will print that message onto the console. So if I go ahead and run this now, look at this, hello from delegate. We get that, this is being printed by this method. Okay. So it's very simple. A delegate is a type safe function pointer. We'll come back to type safe part in just a bit, but let's understand this. A delegate is a function pointer. Why is it called a function pointer? Because to this delegate you're passing in the name of the function which you want to invoke, and then when you invoke this delegate, since this delegate is pointing to that function get called automatically. That's why delegate is called as a function pointer, because this delegate is pointing to this function. So this delegate is a function pointer. But what do we mean by type safe function pointer? Okay, actually in C# delegates are type safe function pointers. What do we mean by that? Now let's say I have another method, or let's take this method itself. Instead of the string return type, instead of the void return type, I'm saying the return type is going to be string. Now look at this. I have already got a red squiggly indicating that, hello method has the wrong return type. Now this delegate, if you look at the signature of this delegate, it has a void return type and it expects a string parameter. But if you look at this method to which this delegate is pointing, this method has got a different signature. It has got a string return type. Okay, so the point to keep in mind is the signature of the delegate should match the signature of the function to which it points to. If the signature of the method does not match, then we get a compiler error like this. So that's why a delegate is called as a type safe function pointer. So the signature of the delegate should match the signature of the function to which it points to. That's the reason delegates are called type safe function pointer. Look at this. The moment I change that to void, now the signature of this method matches the signature of this delegate, hence the compiler warning goes away. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Now you might be wondering, okay, why all this complexity? Now all I want is I want to print this message hello from delegate by calling this hello method. Now why do I have to declare a delegate, create an instance of that, and into the instance I want to pass this method and then call the delegate? Okay, so there are so many steps. Why do you want to do that? Instead of all this, simply say hello and pass in the message hello from delegate. Okay, which is actually very easy to do, and you get the expected output. But then here we are trying to learn the delegates. Okay, so actually delegates give us a lot of flexibility in real-time projects, okay, which we will be exploring in a later session. So don't worry about that piece now. Okay, so that's why we're trying to understand the basics of delegates here. Okay, so what is a delegate? A delegate is a type safe function pointer. That is, it holds a reference or a pointer to a function. And the signature of the delegate must match the signature of the function the delegate points to. Otherwise, you get a compiler error. And this is the reason why delegates are called as type safe function pointer. And if you look at it, a delegate is very much similar to a class. You can create an instance of it, and when you do so, to the constructor of the delegate, you pass in the name of the function that you want your delegate to point to. And a tip that I follow to remember, the syntax of the delegate, it's very much similar to the syntax of the method, except that it has a delegate keyword within that. Just like a method, it has got a return type, name of the method or delegate, and then the parameters with a delegate keyword. And this is that simple example that we have seen. Okay, if you look at this delegate, it has got signature very much similar to a method with the delegate keyword. And here we are creating an instance of this delegate, and to the constructor of the delegate, we pass in the name of the function, and this function's signature must conform to the signature of the delegate. Otherwise, we get a compiler error. That's why we call a delegate is a type safe function pointer. And then to invoke the delegate, we just invoke the delegate and pass in the string message, which will behind the scenes automatically invoke the function to which this delegate is pointing to. All right, on this slide, you can find some resources for ASP.NET and C# interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.